Yasodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yasodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopijana Bala Giri Vanatari Jaya Gopijana Bala Giri Vanatari Jaya Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parvajakacharya Asutara Satasisi Mad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Śrīla Prabhupāda Ki Jai ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Śrīla Prabhupāda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. Glories of Śrīla Prabhupāda. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Today we're reading from 10th Canto, Chapter 20. It's text 49, which is the last verse of the rainy season in autumn. vaṇiṅ-muni-nṛpa-snātā nirgamyārthān prapedire varṣa-ruddhā yathā siddhāḥ sva-piṇḍān kāla āgate yathā nirgamyārthān prapedire, varṣa-ruddhā yathā siddhāḥ, sva-piṇḍān kāla āgate, vaṇiṅ-muni-nṛpa-snātā, nirgamyārthān prapedire, varṣa-ruddhā yathā siddhāḥ, sva-piṇḍān kāla āgate, vaṇiṅ-muni-nṛpa-snātā, nirgamyārthān prapedire, varṣa-ruddhā yathā siddhāḥ, sva-piṇḍān kāla āgate. Ladies. vaṇiṅ-muni-nṛpa-snātā, nirgamyārthān prapedire, varṣa-ruddhā yathā siddhāḥ, sva-piṇḍān kāla āgate. Vaṇiṅ, the merchants. Muni, renunciant sages. Nṛpa, kings. Snātā, and brahmachari students. Nirgamya, going out. Arthan, their desired objects. Prapedire, obtained. Varṣa, by the rain. Ruddhā, checked. Yathā, as. Siddhāḥ, perfected persons. Sva-piṇḍān, the forms they aspire for. Kāla, when the time. Āgate, has come. Translation: the merchants, sages, kings, brahmachari students, kept in by the rain, were at last free to go out and attain their desired objects, just as those who achieve perfection in this life can, when the proper time comes, leave the material body and attain their respective forms. You can repeat: the merchants, sages, kings and brahmachari students, kept in by the rain, were at last free to go out and attain their desired objects, just as those who achieve perfection in this life can, when the proper time comes, leave the material body and attain their respective forms. Purport. Śrīla Prabhupāda comments, in Vrindavan, the autumn season was very beautiful. It was very beautiful then because of the presence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Kṛṣṇa and Balarāma. The mercantile community, the royal order, and the great sages were free to move to achieve their desired benedictions. Similarly, the transcendentalist, when freed from the encagement of the material body, also achieved their desired goal. During the rainy season, the mercantile community cannot move from one place to another, and so do not get their desired profit. Nor can the royal order go from one place to another to collect taxes from the people. As for saintly persons who must travel to preach transcendental knowledge, they also are restrained by the rainy season. But during the autumn, all of them leave their confines. In the case of the transcendentalist, to be a jñānī, a yogi, or a devotee, because of the material body, he cannot actually enjoy spiritual achievement. In the case of the transcendentalist, be he a jñānī, a yogi, or a devotee, because of the material body, he cannot actually enjoy spiritual achievement. But as soon as he gives up the body, or after death, the jñānī merges into the spiritual effulgence of the Supreme Lord. The yogi transfers himself to the various higher planets, and the devotee goes to the planet of the Supreme Lord, Goloka Vṛndāvana, or the Vaikuṇṭhas, and thus enjoys his eternal spiritual life. Thus ends the purports, the humble servants of His Divine Grace, Śrīla Prabhupāda, to the 10th canto, 20th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Rainy Season and the Autumn in Vrindavan. Oma Gyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshulunmilitam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Svaya Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapatandikam Panchakopa Tirubhishcha Kripa Sindubhya Evacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasari Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna. So I feel very blessed to be able to give what actually turns out Śrīla Prabhupāda's final instructions here in 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam today. Since as we've mentioned so many times, Prabhupada put this chapter into a book before he came to America. So throughout the chapter, of course, we've been hearing various analogies using the rainy season, what's done to control the water, controlling the mind, mind just like a restless river, restless sea, always so agitated. You know, I said many times, Prabhupada, he always made everything very simple. We have so many discussions here about controlling the mind, controlling the senses. As brahmachari, as grahasta, taking vanaprast. Always the process is to gradually one's progressing in spiritual life. I said more than once, back in those early days in the 70s, I witnessed brahmacharis. There were so many brahmacharis then in all of our temples. And of course, when you're young, your mind is very agitated. It can be very, very agitated. And they would ask, because Prabhupada would just sit, simply sit, chant. We saw him chanting in temple rooms. We have the audios, fortunately. Sit up straight. And Prabhupada would be in the temple room. The one devotee is my godbrother. He's very happy, he's famous. He said, Prabhupada was talking to me to sit up straight. That's a wonderful thing, getting such chastisement from Śrīla Prabhupāda. Huh? My godbrother was Prabhupada's servant. Being with Prabhupada, as I said, sitting in a room 24 hours a day, when you're 21 years old, 22 years old, 18 years old, and you don't have a cell phone, you don't have your internet, don't have Facebook, Instagram, all of these things. You're not using any telephone, no television. You're sitting there. You have to chant, you have to read, or you have to sit there and listen to your mind. These are your alternatives. But Prabhupada always made it simple. When they would say how to control the mind, he said, you chant with the tongue. We know so often we would say then, Krishna's dancing on your tongue. What's a better vision to think of? Krishna's dancing on your tongue when you chant. And Prabhupada pointed. Prabhupada used all of his senses when he spoke. When he would tell a story, he took on the characters that he was portraying. His voice would change as one person was saying this, one person was saying that. He would bring you into it. So for him it was easy. So you chant with the tongue, he pointed a tongue. You hear with the ears, he pointed to his ears. Prabhupada had beautiful ears. Nothing in between. What's in between? We think the mind, the brain, the intelligence, whatever's there, but the mind. So he just completely eliminated it. Chant with the tongue, hear with the ear. Very simple. Here's so many things, nice things are in this purport. Now, going through the years, sometimes, especially neophyte devotees, they come to Krishna consciousness, and you wonder after a few years, I'm still struggling, I'm still suffering, I'm still not happy. And Prabhupada makes it very clear here in this purport. I said it twice. Because of the material body, one cannot actually enjoy spiritual achievement. As soon as he gives up the body or after death, the devotee goes to the planet of the Supreme Lord, Goloka Vṛndāvana. Sometimes devotees think they'll become devotee, then all their problems will be solved. No more suffering. All we have in the example here in Bhagavatam are pure devotees undergoing so much suffering. We have to go no farther than Śrīla Prabhupāda's life. From the time he came, Prabhupada said once to one Indian gentleman, from the time I left India, I was ill. He said that in 1976. And I always say, I was with Prabhupada for a long time. You didn't know Prabhupada was ill. There were certain things he could say or do. Sometimes he would let you know he was ill, but it was a different kind of illness. The only time I remember him really saying he didn't feel good, he would talk, is my head. I have a big headache from us, from his disciples, mismanaging everything, falling down. So that gave him a headache. That wasn't an illness, a material illness. It was the anxiety of pushing on this Krishna consciousness movement with people who couldn't, as he said to me in his room in New Dwarka, so many times he would just ring the bell in New Dwarka. There was a special atmosphere in New Dwarka. It didn't happen so much in other places, but there it happened. He would call me in and just say a few things, and then he would carry on. He didn't say, now you can go. I knew, now I can go. That was it. He said, you Westerners. He said, if not for the chanting of Hare Krishna, he said, you couldn't accomplish anything. If we think differently, we're in Maya. That's Maya. Thinking you're accomplishing something on your own. He said, but his, of course, giving us the Hare Krishna mantra. He said, so much illicit sex, so much intoxication. He came there to New York, to the West, to free us. Who did he have to work with? Westerners. No one went with him, even though he tried to bring a brahmachari or two, nice young boys. I've said, Prabhupada would ask the family, couldn't give up one son. They all have to become very successful business people, doctors. But he said, if not for that chanting, but we actually know better. It's only his chanting, his desire, everything manifest. We were watching Brahmananda the other day in Balaram Hall. He was reading the text from just the 16th chapter, just by the desire of a devotee. In Prabhupada's humility, he didn't say by my desire, he said by the desire of a devotee. In the first canto, it talks about creation. You'll see over and over again, it says how the Supreme Lord, He's unaffected, even though He creates everything, even though He comes into this world, He comes to Vrindavan, unaffected by all material situations. And in one or two places, Prabhupada says the Mahabhagavat, He's also unaffected by the modes of nature. This is what I saw. This is our pleasure. This is the sign of advancement. When you're unaffected by what happens to this body, so many things are going to happen during this lifetime. Becoming devotee, it frees you from the idea that I am this body. Not that you're going to be enjoying in this body. No, that's not the point. The point is to become freed from the idea that I am this body. The very first lesson, Aham Brahmasmi. But it's described here, your whole lifetime, you're going to have to be dealing with this body. Doesn't matter how many years you were here, chanting, 10, 20, 50 years. In fact, it'll become more troublesome as you get older. Not less troublesome, but at the same time, that understanding develops. I'm not this body. One's happy. I can never conceive of how fortunate, particularly we are here in Vrindavan, to be in this place. Some of you have been here from a young age. Some of you come and join later on. Some of you, like me, it takes you 50 years to somehow or other get a place to stay here in Vrindavan, to see Kṛṣṇa and Balarāma every day. I never imagined I would be so happy to come into the temple room at 4:30 in the morning to see Kṛṣṇa and Balarāma. I never imagined the day would come. But it comes. But it comes by your performances, by your performing your duty. I wanted to read one thing. I had a couple things here. Let me see if this is the right one. No, that's not it. That's not it. This is from 7th canto, 7th chapter, Purport by Śrīla Prabhupāda. It is recommended that one associate with devotees, but there must be some discrimination. Actually, a sadhu, a saintly person, must be saintly in his behavior, sadhava sad acharaha. Unless one adheres to the standard behavior, one's position as a sadhu, saintly person, is not complete. The standard behavior. Prabhupada, to us sometimes he would call that the routine program. Don't become bored by the routine program, coming to the morning program, attending Mangal Arati, chanting your rounds, Guru Puja, coming to class. This is what Prabhupada called the routine program, the standard program for a devotee. I see here in Vrindavan, it can be a very dangerous place. Why Prabhupada was so protective of us, built this temple. We have surrounded by these walls. Keeps in here to understand properly. It's very easy to go outside these walls, even stay within these walls. Hear all kinds of nonsense. Oh, Kṛṣṇa Balarāma, they're just happily playing in the field. We just need to do the same thing. Told you, Prabhupada, so strict he was. Standard behavior. It was very strict behavior. He saw a boy and girl talking, just innocently talking in Mayapur. It appeared innocently. From his veranda, hundreds of meters away. What is this fish? That's a very Bengali term, I imagine. Fish, fish. What does it... All I imagine, I don't know, but if you know fish, there's sometimes different kinds of fish, and they literally, they just look at one another with their mouths opening and closing, this fish, fish. Prabhupada didn't care for this fish, fish. So many things he said about life in Vrindavan, who should live here, how they should live here. This is the standard. He goes on, therefore, Vaishnava must adhere to the standard. Śrīla Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that a Vaishnava, a person initiated into the Vaishnava cult, should be offered the respect befitting a Vaishnava, which means that he should be offered service and prayers. However, one should not associate with him if he is not a fit person with whom to associate. So one has to understand what it is to be fit person. Who do we associate with? Huh? Again, Prabhupada said I put all of the tirthas right there in the courtyard. All of the tirthas here in Vrindavan right there. Why did he say that? Oh, because he put all of the tirthas there, but because he didn't want us going around hearing from this person, that person, this philosophy, that philosophy, his philosophy. He's the person that spread Krishna consciousness all around the world. He's the person that turned Malechas into Vaishnavas. Now who could do it? Only Prabhupada could do this. And I've seen over my years, myself included of course, so many ways one can be distracted. Maya has so many tricks. We say her arsenal. Huh? You know now the U.S., these Western countries, billions of dollars are sending their arsenals, these bombs, these tanks, this thing, that thing. Arsenal means everything is there in the arsenal. Maya has big arsenal. And she knows, and she starts out very simply to distract us from the path of Krishna consciousness. I saw in those days, the very easiest distraction, of course, is the fish. A young boy, he sees a young girl. Boom. That easy. That's all Maya has to dangle in front of you. Here's this young girl smiling at you. Oh my gosh. And then it begins that quickly. Maybe it takes days. Maybe it takes weeks. When I left Prabhupada, he said he was seduced by a woman. That was it. He tried so hard. Prabhupada did his best because his previous servant, same thing happened in the very same place. Kitchen. The heat in the kitchen, filled with women the kitchen was. And poor Prabhupada's servant would have to run in and out of the kitchen after massage, cooking, wearing a gamcha. It was very simple. And so many went that path. Even sannyasis. I told you, one sannyasi went to Prabhupada. He was 30. Prabhupada gave him sannyas, 1972. Within a year, he came to Prabhupada. Prabhupada, I feel like my insides have been ripped out of me. The attachment was so strong. This was in Calcutta, Prabhupada's home. Prabhupada looked at him. He said, yes. He said, attachment is so strong. He said, just last night I had a dream about my wife. Who knows if he had a dream about his wife? But he said that to him, trying to give him some platform to strengthen him, something he could stand on. Prabhupada said, even I had a dream about my wife. And then he said, no question, you can go back. Sannyasi. A few months later, he went back. It's Maya. She's very strong, and she knows right where to hit you. If that doesn't work, for those of you who have overcome that attachment, that desire, there's other things he can do. I'll read another thing here. Let's see. I am also, this is a letter, 1976, September 18th, during the autumn season. I'm also practically finding that if any of our students artificially try to become scholars by associating with unwanted persons, they become victimized. See, I was victimized. Prabhupada said I was victimized by a woman. Other people, they're victimized by this. For a little learning is dangerous, especially for the Westerners. I don't know why he gave Indians a pass on this, but he said especially for the Westerners. I'm practically seeing, as soon as they begin to learn a little Sanskrit, immediately they feel they have become more than their guru. And then the policy is kill guru and be killed himself. He says in just a few words there, you kill your guru, you're actually killing yourself. I see that over and over. People think they leave Prabhupada's shelter. They leave ISKCON. They're thinking they're doing it due to their intelligence. They don't know they're doing it due to their ignorance. This is their fallen condition, removing themselves from the very association. Prabhupada's saying, take this association, proper association, not nonsense association. Prabhupada was so simple, but again, very strict. I said that in the last class. Don't mistake Prabhupada allowing something to happen as permission, that he instructed it to happen. Sometimes he just stopped asking. In Juhu, when Prabhupada was staying on the second floor flat, Palika was cooking for him. So, in the flats, of course, Juhu, by the beach, very humid, lots of mosquitoes. So the policy was, I gradually learned, once the sun came up, you could open the windows, because then all the mosquitoes were gone. And then by the time the sun goes down, you have to close the windows. Didn't matter what the temperature was, you had to close the windows. Otherwise, filled with mosquitoes. Prabhupada didn't care for air conditioning, although I think having it now with these last 3 months, I think he approved having the air conditioning in there. But he didn't like air conditioning, he liked the fan, breezes, open, nice breezes. So that was one of my services. And sometimes I forgot. I would forget. I could forget the simplest things. Prabhupada took Yogendra Ras every other day. How easy is that? 5 o'clock in the morning, before the morning walk, mortar and pestle. I had a little travel mortar and pestle, a little black thing, it was no bigger than that. And they would send black cardamom from India to wherever he was in the world. You couldn't get it anywhere else. And every other morning, that was the program. Open up black cardamom, put all the seeds in there, put in a 1/4 teaspoon of honey, and put in these 2 little saffron-colored round pills, Yogendra Ras. You can look it up on the internet, still available. Contained gold and pearls, crushed pearl and some gold. It was expensive then. Now, if you can even get genuine. And he only trusted one pharmacy. In 1970, he only trusted one Ayurvedic pharmacy to deliver proper medicine. It's still in existence. So every other morning I'd mix that up, and Prabhupada he'd lick the mortar, the pestle. He'd lick the one thing, then he'd scoop it out, and he'd take what was in there, and then he'd lick that, and put it back down. Every other day. But sometimes every other day would come and I'd forget. He didn't forget. Call me. Where's my medicine? He said, morning walk, massage, and Ayurvedic medicine. He said those three things kept him alive. So it was one of three things he considered very, very important. In Juhu, one evening is coming, and Palika is walking around in the flat, and she's closing all the windows. I said, Palika, what are you doing? I said, that's my service. She said, yeah, Prabhupada called me in and said, he doesn't know why, but you forget to close the windows. Oh, that was it. He didn't call me in and chastise me. By this point, I had been with him more than 2 years. He also, I guess in some ways, he gave up on me as well, and my nature, what I did and what I didn't do. But as soon as I heard that, I didn't forget to close a window again, ever after that. Just hearing a Prabhupada said that about me. So there's that way also, the Sanskritists. They would read a word, Prabhupada's purport, Prabhupada's translation, transliteration. But that's not the word, Sanskrit. It should be like this. Prabhupada's translated like this. And in this way, gradually, we heard Tamal Krishna's story the other day after Mangalartik. Everyone remember that story on the train? Who remembers? Okay, a few of you. That means the rest of you weren't at Mangalartik the other morning. Tamal Krishna tells the story on the train, and he tells it with his flair, his own flair. If you want to understand what a packed train is like, he said, third world country, you see packed trains. Sometimes we see pictures and videos, on social media. The top of the train is like filled everywhere, in the train, on the windows, on the roof of the car. Everywhere there's people. That's a packed train. He said, so Prabhupada tells a story, you're sitting on the train and it's full. Everyone's got their seat, and here comes this little Indian man, skinny little man. And he's looking, obviously he wants to sit down, and he worms his way in, pushes two people, and he gets his spot. Just a skinny old man. And then you have to move over 1-2 inches. And then after he sits down, he brings one of his little children and squeezes them in. And then another child, he squeezes them in. And then the way Tamal says it, I'm saying that because I didn't hear the story from Prabhupada, but he says, then his big fat wife comes. And now you're just hanging onto the edge of the seat. He says, this is how Maya acts. She doesn't just come in, plop on your head, destroy you in one pounce, one slap. She can do that as well. But she inches her way in. But once she gets a hold of you in what happens to be your particular passion, what you desire materially, Hare Krishna, then she's got you. Then everything else goes to work. We can see it. If you look, you can see it. If you're observant, you can see it going on day after day after day. You don't even have to go outside the temple walls. You can see Maya playing her tricks right here. Well, what happens if you're not a Sanskritist? You're not the philosopher? Well, money is also very important, We have our chief financial officer here. He could tell us so many stories that rupees, people see those rupees. They're chanting, they're following, they're tending everything, and one day they're gone. You can't even figure out how much has been taken. And for some it might be just adventure, maybe some exploration, diamond mines. So many things are there to distract us, to take us away from our service. in Krishna consciousness. So we have to be very cautious every moment. This is what I saw again and again with Prabhupada, the little things. Don't skip these little things. Nothing is little. Coming down, honoring prasadam properly. I said, anything Prabhupada did, when you see videos of Prabhupada, whatever he did, just by looking at him, you can be Krishna conscious. I always say watching him. One of my favorites is just watching him do this. When I see him do that, I just, it's like ecstatic, just seeing him putting on tilak, sitting up with his thread, anything, sitting getting massage. Everything he did, you could see the consciousness, taking prasadam. Again, one of my favorite videos I saw after 40 years, just bringing Prabhupada prasadam in Melbourne Temple in Australia. He had a very nice room there, set up by Madhvisa Prabhu. It was unusual. It was the only room, it actually had a love seat. Prabhupada would sit, we call it a love seat, I don't know, for some reason. Prabhupada would sit in this nice love seat, talk with people. But when it came to prasadam, sat on the floor on his straw mat facing the wall. No disturbances. It's Krishna prasadam. I was talking to some of my godbrothers. We were all altar boys. And we were 8, 10 years old. We were all ringing bells, mass, watching the priest putting the wine in his thing. We were laughing. Sometimes certain priests, when you put the wine in, when they did that, it meant stop. Some of them would go this way. Just keep pouring that wine in. How difficult it is to become Krishna conscious. Huh? Prabhupada gave us such a simple formula, but you have to follow it. And don't expect that all your troubles are going to be solved. They are being solved. You only have one problem. We think we're this body. That's the only problem. As soon as you understand you're not, all the other troubles, they're insignificant. They don't matter. Unaffected, as Prabhupada says. So I think we could, if you like, we could stop here. Anyone has any questions or comments? Otherwise, I could go on a little bit more. And he does mention in the purport, of course, it's at the time of death. He says it in two ways. He cannot actually enjoy spiritual. And as soon as he gives up the body, or after death, a yogi, of course, he can give up the body. But at the time of death, all your hard work, you'll see the benefit. Not just for you. I sometimes said, you know, Prabhupada, he mentioned my mother once. 2.5 years I was with him. Never asked me about my wife. That was disappeared. Just do your service. He understood what's best for us. He understood what's best for all of us to this day, where we should be, what service we should do. But one day he mentioned my mother. I put it in my book. My mother said, yes, that was my birthday. She said it with a little bit of, because I didn't wish her happy birthday every year as a young devotee. And then she's 90 years old, lived a very pious Catholic life. She went to Mangal Artik every morning in the church, 5 o'clock mass, drove to church. I say, definitely she had somebody sitting next to her, the Supreme Lord next to her, because she couldn't drive, 88 years old. I don't know how she made it, but she made it. She died on Janmashtami. And I was at a temple. I had just arrived, 20 hours of flying. I was in the Ukraine, right in this area where all the wars, the Donbass region. That's right where I was. So I arrived after 4 airports, 22 hours of flying, and I was sleeping very nicely. My mother was in a hospice in New Jersey, 5 hours ahead. Anyway, I woke up because I had a dream, And in it I saw my mother, and she had a chaperone on each side of her. The whole thing was 5 seconds. But she zoomed by me with these 2 chaperones, and all I saw was a smile on her face as she passed by. So then I got right on the computer, and sure enough, there was a message from my sister. Mom's died 12:15 a.m. He died right at the beginning of Janmashtami. Prabhupada says, your parents, they'll appreciate you at the time of death. Not even you. Your parents will appreciate you at the time of death, just by what you've done in Krishna consciousness. What to speak of the success we can expect at the time of death. I'm not one for telling dreams from here, so I'm not going to tell any other things this person had, that person had, within my own family connections. But it's there. Everything you hear from Prabhupada, it's the truth, the absolute truth. You have to exercise those 3 things: enthusiasm, patience, tolerance, and determination. Everything will come. But you have to follow the standard, the routine. Keep to the routine. Don't let Maya slip in. This way, that way, women, money, prestige, honor, jewels, whatever it may be. So many distractions can be there depending on what we're after. And then success will be there. And your next life, as Prabhupada said, you go back home, back to Godhead. So yes, any questions?
Hare Krishna. You have mentioned Maya. She will not attack all suddenly. Gradually she will affect us. So how to determine the Maya is attacking us at initial level so that we can take corrective action and rectify it?
How to?
So how we can determine, like at initial stage only, like Maya is acting upon us, and at initial stage only, because we can rectify it and we can correct it.
You can't entertain the mind. That's what he said. There's no question of mind. They were his exact words. There's no question. Mind doesn't exist. That's how he dealt with it. That's how he wanted to deal with it. I always compare it to, you're with a group of people, or maybe even one person. I do that. It's very not polite. Not polite. But if I'm with someone and I hear all these things coming out of them, I just gradually turn and I disappear. I just disappear. That's how you have to treat the mind. You have to realize it's just the mind. Mind saying, do this, do that. It pops up anywhere. Prabhupada said, just last night I had a dream. He said in one letter to Tamal Krishna at that same time, I think it's 1970, how so many times he said Maya was there. He said, but Krishna always saved me. So that's how a devotee thinks. Krishna will save me. But you have to accept being saved. You can't entertain the mind. Just like you don't entertain a friend who's talking all nonsense. You want to sit there and listen. That's the mind. Ooh, this is very nice, telling me about this person doing this. And 40 years ago, this person fell down and, oh, he's in Maya. 40 years later, we'll point the finger at him. He did this when he was 15 years old. Even he's 60 years old. So we have to be very careful in Krishna consciousness. And like it says, like I read, Prabhupada, we have respect for all Vaishnavas, but you pick your association. And be careful which association you pick. And the same thing with the mind. If it's not good association, you reject it. It requires practice. It requires and it requires advanced devotee. It requires we follow everything. Now he told the devotee in Bhaktivedanta manner, thank you for cleaning my rooms. Never wrote a letter to Prabhupada. Prabhupada wrote her a letter in 1973. Thank you for cleaning my rooms while I was at the manor. He said, and if you chant your rounds, follow the principles, and do this service, at the end of this life, you'll go back home, back to Godhead. And of course, go outside, or even inside. People say, no, that's not the process. You have to get another guru. That's Maya. Prabhupada says, you have my blessings, huh? Go to hell, you have my blessings. I saw it over and over. I saw his sannyasi, one of his disciple sannyasis, one of his servants, cooked for him, massaged him. He was his personal servant. He gave him sannyas. He was in India. Coming to India is such a dangerous place for a neophyte devotee. You'll hear so many philosophies. Ooh, this sounds very attractive. And I don't even have to chant 16 rounds. I'll do that. I'll take another guru. This devotee came, he's Prabhupada's disciple. He came in, he was wearing red. Prabhupada didn't like seeing red on his men. When they installed the deities in Melbourne, and I was there for the installation, and Pradyumna was performing the yajna, and of course everyone's throwing their sesame seeds and ghee and everything. So one devotee, Australian devotee, he gave me a chadar to protect my cloth from the sesame seeds. It was red chadar. So I had it on for maybe 2 minutes. I got tapped on the shoulder. Prabhupada says, what are you doing with that chadar on? Boom. That was the end of the chadar. Who would think anything like that? But no, Prabhupada didn't like it. So that's all I know. I don't know anything. But I know things that he liked, things he didn't like. And I pray to somehow or other remain here and just do what he wants me to do. Like he said to me, you massage me until I tell you to stop, not until you tell you to stop. I had developed that habit. It wasn't just about massage, it's about everything. Do it what he tells you to do, not what you tell you to do. Then you can make nice progress in Krishna consciousness. Humble fool before your spiritual master. Okay, we have one more question here. Same question. Okay.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Related to that, and answering to that question, in your class you mentioned that chanting 16 rounds and following forever is Prabhupada says that they have explained many times. But nowadays we also hear Prabhupada said minimum 16 rounds. And they say no minimum. You have to come to higher level, this and that. And even I heard somebody was saying that this whole program Prabhupada has given, this is like minimum standard of devotional service. So how to sometimes...
Minimum standard, but the standard, if you follow, you can go back home, back to Godhead. That was, yes, minimum. He's stressed. Even if you have to not sleep, you chant your 16 rounds. Minimum of 16 rounds. We were all here last week, Nirjala Ekadasi. Everyone, we didn't, Daiva Shakti, we didn't know anything about Nirjala Ekadasi. It was all we knew. We chanted our rounds, we took prasadam, whatever was served, and you rested the day you did service. Somehow or other you were engaged in your preaching activities. I saw the program over the course of the day in Balaram Hall with the 10 air conditioners there. Everyone was invited, go and chant. By 3 o'clock in the afternoon, how many were chanting? How many were sleeping? I saw. How many stayed up all night and continued to chant as you're supposed to do if you're going to observe Nirjala Ekadasi. And then you don't sleep the next day. Then you perform your regular activities the next day. That's the program. Not that I stay up all night, then the next 2 days I'm useless. I have some of my godbrothers and others I hear, the next day headaches, vomiting, all these things they're doing, but they observed Nirjala Ekadasi. At least they think they did observe Nirjala Ekadasi. Told you, Prabhupada told Jayapataka Maharaj during Chaturmas, what are you doing? I'm chanting 64 rounds. He said, chant 16 rounds and go preach. Prabhupada wanted preachers, and we know his spiritual master and Prabhupada, they would say, eat meat if you have to. You know, Prabhupada said that to Harikesh. It didn't mean he was giving you permission to eat meat. It's an emphasis how important the missionary activities are. That's what I read here from Prabhupada. Preaching. You know, somehow or other, your good fortune, or maybe it's your misfortune, you came into ISKCON, which is a preaching movement. This is what pleases Prabhupada. However you can do it, raising your children properly, cooking, dressing the deities, everything is preaching. It's all most important. But to make a show, either for myself, and then to advertise it. Oh, I did Nirjala Ekadasi, I did this. Oh, all your pious, all gone by your bragging rights. You keep it all to yourself. That's what austerity means. Not that the next day you put on photos of you sitting there chanting your rounds, 100 rounds, whatever it is. And, all right, I heard the bell ring. Thank you all very much. Śrīla Prabhupāda ki jai. Hare Krishna.